Okay. Here, why Ananda is missing? For that you need to understand something called conditioning. Conditioning in Sanskrit is called Upaadhi. Okay. Upaadhi or conditioning prevents us from seeing something which is already there. One example of conditioning is, I wear red glasses. Okay. Then entire world appears to be red to me because my glasses are conditioning my vision. Okay. My experience is conditioned by my glasses. If I wear green glasses, the entire world appears green. So this is called conditioning or upadhi. Okay. So our bliss is forgotten because of the conditioning or upadhi. So I'll give you some example of conditioning. Okay. I have a cup of water. I add coffee powder to that and milk and call that as coffee. So water is conditioned by coffee powder and milk. Right? So now water which is tasteless tastes. But has anything happened to the water? Huh? Can anything happen to the water by adding coffee powder and sugar and milk? Water remains water. Right? But water is conditioned by coffee powder, milk and sugar. The conditioning of water has happened. But nothing happens to the water. Right? This is one example of conditioning. So then water can be a drain water. The water is flowing in the drain. It looks very dirty. It is carrying mud particles. The mud particles are conditioning water to appear as dirty water. But anything happens to water? The water is always water, pure. But we look at it, it changes. Our experience of water changes because of the conditioning.
Water is not pure.
Water is pure. Water, no. Water, you add mud. So something happens to water? Nothing happens to water. It's only carrying the water, mud particles. Filter out the mud particle, water is there. Remove the conditioning, use water is there. Right? So water becomes a rain water, a drain water. By conditioning. Clear? The conditions change the appearance and conditions change the experience, but nothing happens to the water. Are we clear? The same water, you take it from a temple, it becomes tirtha, purifying water. Okay? The same water you put in the form of ice. It no longer looks water like water. It looks ice. The same water, make it vapor. Boil it. It becomes vapor. Right? The water appears in different forms depending on the conditioning. If you apply heat, it appears like vapor. If you apply cold, it will appear like ice. If you apply sugar and tea, it will become tea. If you apply coffee powder, it becomes coffee. But water is water only. Remove the conditioning, it comes back to water only. No, it is remove the conditioning, water is there only. Correct? Is this clear? So, once you understand the concept of conditioning, understanding Atma becomes easier. Atma is all pervading. It is everywhere. Okay? So you do the conditioning, applying a name and form on that. Then experience is different. Different experiences can happen. But nothing has happened to the self, Atma. When we look through the conditioning, Atma appears as different, different objects. When you remove the conditioning, or when you understand the conditioning, you recognize the true nature of self, Atma. Is it clear? So, when I look at the Atma to the conditioning called your body, then I call Atma as a woman. When I look the conditioning through your body, I call it as a man. When I look through a dog's body, then I call it as a dog. So the conditions are superimposed on the Atma. There's a conditioning which is taking place in our observation. Okay. So this conditioning makes us think that Atma in you is different. The Atma is not different. Atma is only one. Appearing through many bodies, it appears as different. The conditioning is making it appear as different. So another example of conditioning here. The space inside this house is there. The space outside your house is also there. The space is one and the same. Can the wall cut the space? Space is so subtle, you cannot cut the wall. What wall cannot cut the space? Wall appears to look a boundary, but not really so. The space is not cut anywhere, it's cut. It's only appearance. Right? Is it clear? The space appears to be cut, only appears to be, but not really cut. But what you say, this is my house, you will say. Okay? Because of limitation of space. But what do you call as house? The space inside the house or walls of the house? What is space? What is house? What is house?
Space inside the wall.
Space inside the wall is the house. If there's no space, then you can't call it a house. It's packed with the bricks, you can't call it a house. Actually, you are buying space. But can you register space? In register office, can you register space? Say space is so subtle you can't register it. You will register only land, which is gross. And you call it as house, which is gross. But subtle, you cannot register it. You cannot call it. But your living is in space. Alright? But then you call it inside space, my house, and outside space, outer space. But space is one and the same. But you have a notion, you are putting a condition on the space, mental condition. Understand? So similarly, Atma is same for everybody. Only one Atma. So then we call through your body and mind, then you call it as Jiva. Through your body and mind, you call it as Jiva. Through her body and mind, call it. Then we call as many Jivas are there. Many individual souls are there. Understand? So then we'll say, oh, there are many individual souls are there. You have a Atma, you have a Atma, you have a Atma. Then there's a Paramatma, who is Supreme Soul. In reality, only one Atma is there, appearing through many bodies. Because of the conditioning of the bodies, Atma appears to be different for each person, and that we call as Jiva. Okay? So, then what we have to do? We have to understand the reality of Atma by unconditioning, removing the conditions. Okay? Can you remove the body and find out Atma? Body is conditioning Atma. Then can I remove the body and condition find out the Atma? Not possible. You cannot remove anything from Atma because Atma is all pervading. You remove the finger, you cannot, that finger also has Atma is pervading that. You cannot remove anything from Atma. Forget about Atma. Okay, this chair is there in space. Remove the chair from space and show me. Is it possible to remove the chair from space? Huh?
No.
So Atma means existence. Can you remove anything from existence? If you remove the body from existence, body also is existence only. If you remove the finger from body, that finger also is existence only. Existence you cannot remove. Right? You are not able to remove anything from Atma and see the Atma as it is. Are we clear? Then what is the way for us is to understand Atma using a logic. Because human being has the great facility called intellect. Okay? The intellect is given for you to recognize. Intellect of human being has allowed him to go to space, create new technologies, make our life better. So that intellect is useful for recognizing Atma, useful for recognizing the self. Is it clear? Useful. But intellect is really useless. The reason is, your intellect, you are only using it for the objects. You are never applied your intellect to find the subject, Atma. The whole of world, the intellect is very, very well used for objects. Okay? Even the brightest mind in the earth, he uses the intellect only for objects. The intellect is not tuned or not trained to find the subject. You understand? So, to understand the subject, some logic has to be shown to intellect. Where what is it missing? How it is missing Atma? How it is missing God? That logically you have to show to intellect. The logical way of step by step pointing out. And that step by step logical way of pointing out is called Vedanta. It is different from your logic you apply in the material world and world of objects. So you cannot separate out Atma from anything and find yourself. With the presence of everything, you have to find out your self using a sharpened intellect. Using intellect which is sharpened. And how that sharpened intellect is sharpened? Through Vedanta teaching. Is it clear? Understood? So, I'll give you another example. I'll give you another example. The ocean, you see an ocean, there are big waves, the small waves. Okay? There is a foam, there is a storm, there is waxing and waning, and big waves, small waves are there in the ocean. Now if I ask you, show me water in the ocean, how do you show the water? How do you show the water in the ocean?
It's all water.
Huh? No. I'm seeing a big wave. I'm seeing a small wave. The water is in every wave. Okay? Water is in every wave. To recognize the water, should we stop the wave? You have to understand nature of water and understand logically what is water in the wave. You don't have to stop the wave. Similarly, to recognize Atma in myself and the world, we have to apply our logic. And that logic is called Vedanta, logic of Vedanta. It's a higher logic compared to lower logic we apply for in the world. For money, for power, for everything what you do, apply a logic. That's called objective logic. Here you have to apply subjective logic. This is much clear? So the Vedanta gives a teaching in a very systematic way to apply a subjective logic. Logic of subjective and logic of the self. To recognize the self. This is called higher logic. Whereas the logic in the material world is called lower logic because it's objects. Okay. So one such way of logic is called, these teachings have become a methodology of teaching. The methodology of teaching is called prakriya, a process by which you are systematically made to understand the truth. Okay, made systematically to recognize the truth. So one such prakriya is called Sharira Traya Prakriya, or three bodies. We'll get into that.